everybody, and welcome to this next series in the walk through the decans. Today, I'm joined with my oldest Astro Twitter friend, Teri. She can speak on her Virgo qualifications, but that's what we're here today. We're here to talk about the 3 decans of Virgo and just Virgo as a sign and the tarot cards associated with it. So, Teri, do you want to introduce yourself and let people know where they can find you and the sort of work that you do?
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, Christa, it's very nice to be with you here today and then walk through the decans of Virgo together with you, which I have in each decan. I have something, so it can be interesting.
Yeah.
And coming to myself, generally, you can see me as in social media on Instagram, Facebook as Amethyst Astro Tarot, and then my website is like that. I'm generally doing the readings for astrology, natal chart, and yearly forecasting, but I'm hopefully going into the a bit depths of horary astrology from September onwards. Not as readings,
Nice.
but more like studying. So, and in that sense, probably I would be uh, getting introduced to traditional astrology more, since my background is more modern astrology, which is good because at the end of the day basics. That
Yeah.
that's where the thing starts. So I think it's good to have more familiarity with that, and that's me.
Awesome. Well, I'm saving horary for myself for next year, so I'll be asking you some questions when I get to that point. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start with, if I can get it going. We're going to start with Virgo 1. So, all right. So we have the first 10 degrees of Virgo. And Virgo in tarot is represented by the Hermit. So we see the Hermit card over here. And the first decan is ruled by the Sun. And so, just real briefly, I'm going to describe the Hermit card and describe the Sun, and then we can kind of go into how they merge in the 8 of coins, 8 of pentacles, 8 of discs, whatever you say. So the Hermit card, we have a singular figure. He is male. He has a beard, a white beard, signifying like kind of old age. He has a cloak. It's a gray cloak that is covering him. There's not a lot of light around him. It's not totally dark, but it's not bright and sunny as a foil to the Sun card. He's holding a lantern that has light in it, and he's holding kind of a golden staff. So he's got his head down, kind of looking at either where the light is illuminating his path. And just the Hermit itself. I mean, some people look at the Hermit card and they think of Saturn, which I sometimes use. Sometimes I see the Hermit and it speaks to more Saturn. But in the Rider-Waite-Smith and the common correspondences, the Hermit is Virgo. And so we look at the Sun card. So the Sun card, with the way that Pamela Coleman Smith, she changed kind of the image of the Sun card. The Sun card used to look a little differently, and there are some similarities. But in this one here, we have the top half of the sun of the card is the sun and lots of rays. The sun has a face on it. It's displaying its rays in every direction, some curly rays, some straight rays. And there's kind of a border of sunflowers that is peeking up over a stone wall. And then there's a child with a flower crown that's naked, riding a white horse, holding a incredibly long red banner. And there's just this openness and expression, and it is such a foil to that Hermit card. I kind of like this tension. You know, Virgo in the northern hemisphere is kind of the sign of Virgo is like the signaling of the end of the commanding signs, or the signs that have more daylight than the night. And so I think just to kind of start us off for Virgo, I like that the sun is here, just making this little last announcement, like, don't forget me. So what are your thoughts just on the major arcanas for this first decan of Virgo?
Yeah, I think also in the Sun card, I think that in the old versions there were actually kind of twins in some of the cards, as far as I
Yep.
know. Yeah, I think, and also I think the sun card is really, I think, interesting. There is this at one hand, there is this with red, the more fire, more energy coming, but there is also with the child and the white horse, etc. It's like all that purity, that
Mhm.
actually maybe like the inner child, there is this,
Yeah.
I think, that comes more with the, I think, Leo as well. I mean, more than I think in this case, of course, we are talking about Virgo, but it's like that, playful and then child kind of thing inside as well. So it's nice. And also, I think the way you look at the sun is like it's a bit also kind of um, too much stern in some ways. The way that it
Mm,
looks, it's like, yeah, going like this, but it's more like the authority thing. It's like,
mhm.
I'm here, I'm the sun, look
Yeah.
at me, like
Yeah.
listen to me, etc. So in this sense, the sun card is really interesting. Also, the sunflowers, in a way, it's like sunflower as the flowers they go, in Turkish also, that they look at the sunlight and everything and they turn their heads because it's there. I mean,
Mhm.
like the real source of energy and everything. So in that
Yeah.
sense, I think the sun card is interesting. And also, it's, I think, one of the major arcanas is that the sun, and it's the sun. I mean, like, for
Yeah.
example, in case of moon, it doesn't exist, but the sun is the sun. Yeah. Like, don't give
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
title to anyone else.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
like
but yeah,
the moon
yeah,
is Pisces, right? And the
yeah,
Hierophant's the moon. It's like there are someone, but the sun is like, no, I am me. No one else can replace me.
yeah,
And something
exactly.
that when you were talking about the sunflowers and how they kind of like follow the sun, there's doing kind of planetary, like kind of magical work. I use oils a lot, and oils and kind of body work represent fire. It holds energy, right? And the sunflower itself holds so much potential for oil, and you can press so much oil out of those out of the seeds. And I like that the sunflower follows the sun and just absorbing as much of that power, because the sun is incredibly powerful. Like some people have experienced the sun acting almost like a malefic, like just being too
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And in this card, yeah, it's kind of got a calm but serious face of like, yeah,
yeah,
there's a child riding a horse, but don't forget that I am the star around which you all orbit. That
yeah,
authority,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. In that sense, yeah, the sun is really interesting. And in the Hermit card, I mean, it's like I'm always thinking like this. It's, the face, the head is like goes like this. In somehow it feels like uh, there's something sadness in this card as well.
Mm, mm,
That it's like, because the way that the head is down, um, of course there is like humbleness that comes,
mm,
there's this modesty that comes through that, but there's also like, it's like, as if it's an old man, that the life, you go through a long life and then there is the tiredness of that, etc., that
yeah.
all come together and it reflects on your face. And I don't know, sometimes, because they call the Virgo as the servant of the zodiac. Maybe that's the happiness that is coming in the shoulder. It's like, it's enough the thing that I'm carrying, etc. But I think there is also, yeah, there is this kind of maturity that comes, that I can understand how it is related to Saturn. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
the father and the mature, and then everything that goes through that. And I think it's interesting that the stick that he's holding on to is that, at the end of the day, together with the torch and the path and the thing that illuminates the way, that path, they are all light colors, which is in
Mm,
contrast with all the things. So it gives, in a way, kind of, I think, hope. And then there is something where the way leads us, there's something there, that's why we
yeah.
need to follow that way and
Mm-hmm.
reflect on whatever it is.
Yeah, and we'll see with all of the decans, with the 8, 9, and 10 of coins, there is like a self-sufficiency to Virgo that I can see can lead to loneliness. You can be so self-sufficient, especially in the nine, that you don't really need anybody else because you figured it out. And there's a limit to that. There's a limit to personal success. It's like, well, then now what? But it just kind of dawned on me. So there's the exaltation scheme in Hellenistic astrology, and so there are planets that find um, uh, dignity. So like Venus is in fall in Virgo and exalts in Pisces. There are the moon exalts in Taurus and Venus is at home there. Like there's like this dual rulership for all the signs, except for Virgo. Mercury exalts and is at home there. And so it doesn't really have like another mate to play with. It's just by itself. Like Mercury is at home and exalts in Virgo. And that in itself could be like there's no other sign that has exaltation and domicile within the same sign. It's just Virgo. And so again, it speaks to that Mercury is perfectly fine in Virgo, but maybe it just gets lonely here because it doesn't have another kind of rulership, and then within that, you can look at triplicity and you can look at the bounds and then you can look at the decans here. But just within the exaltation scheme, Mercury is kind of like having to be on its own. And it's the yin or the feminine or receptive sign of Hermes, as opposed to the yang, outward expressive of Gemini. And so it is kind of internalized, and it is represented with that hermit kind of looking down. It's got just enough illumination to see its pathway, and it's not looking to try to consume more light. It's like, I have all the light that I need, and I'm just going to walk my path with the information that I have. And that feels very Virgoan, of like just deciphering the information and analyzing what you've already gathered. That's been a big theme for Virgo that I've seen, is like, yes, there's lots more information to consume. You do that through Gemini. With Virgo, it's like there's so much information already gathered. How do you put those into some sort of process or systems or analysis? Because you can get lost in the eternal rabbit holes of the information that you already have. I mean, you worked in finance, like the numbers are endless. You can organize them in endless ways without adding more numbers to it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it reflects a lot, like how, at a point I had to be in the front line of when I was working in finance, but I started like what they call back office. It's like, yeah, you don't see the
Mm-hmm.
customers. And I was working like, doing, doing that, the scribe, making that kind of thing. And I was really happy. And I also
Yeah.
like this head down. It's like, I don't need to socialize. I don't want the intrigues of the workplace. I want to just do my work. And of course,
Yeah.
with the work that I have, yeah, I can like be service to everyone. Maybe lighten the way of everyone, but leave me alone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do my work, and then I go in the best way possible, and then let me go home. That's it.
You're
It's like
you're literally this card. That's you.
exactly.
Yeah. So do you care to share what placements you have in Virgo one?
In Virgo one, I have the Saturn. Saturn in
Saturn.
Virgo. I have in the first decan of Virgo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my chart ruler. Mars is here and it's conjunct Jupiter, my benefic of sect. So I'm very familiar with this card. And I like, so we're looking at the Eight of Coins, and it's a singular character. He's kind of working in the day. It's bright outside. You can see kind of a village way off in the distance behind him. He's on a workbench. It's like a long bench with another plank of wood kind of propping up the disc that he is chiseling out the star shape on. He's got one at his feet, and then he has like this, it's almost like a trophy wall that are all these
Mhm.
discs kind of stacked up kind of in front. To me, it's like real basically like there's work to be done, but you can see the work that you've already done. Like there's some sort of satisfaction of look at what I have been able to accomplish, but I'm still busy. He's fully clothed, but he has like what appears to be kind of a work vest, that's kind of tied at the back. And so he's clearly still in the process of working. And even though he has a lot to show for the efforts that he's already put in, there's still this action of like, but there's always more work to do. And I think that that can speak to the trope of Virgo is kind of to be anal retentive or be too meticulous or get too lost in the details. And that's really because
Mhm.
Mercury likes to pull things apart and look at the tiny details. It's like the god of
Yeah.
small things, you know? And for this one, it's like to be kind of lost in being that servant and being lost in the ability to continue to work. This is a very, very hard working card. And in Earth, it's like hard working with tangible results.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's very, I was smiling at the point that you were saying like lost in the details and like small details working. And it's very funny when I put this, I think put on social media as well. And at the point it was in the Nine of Pentacles, which I will explain. And then I started like with the loop. It's like if anything, any detail is like this, I'm like, Inspector Gadget, it's me here, etc. Because I something like caught my eye, and then I left everything and I started looking, writing about it, and then searching online. And then Teri like was supposed to look at the, of course, Decan of Virgo, and then it was completely became the Rider Waite Smith. What was Pixie thinking about when she was drawing this, etc. And it really
Yeah.
those, but yeah, also I think there is this, of course, there is this like you are putting it up, it's like, yeah, you are showing that's the work that I'm doing. But of course, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's in a more like, um I think a humble way. I think it's like, yeah, that's like it's not like look at me what I did, it's
Mm-hmm.
here, but it's like, that I'm working like hard here. And then I'm like putting them so that it's a this place that I'm working hard. Of course, sun is the decan rulers, of course, since
Right.
you like your recognition, and then you want to be appreciated for what you are doing because you are making a lot of effort and you are making hard work, etc. But there's also like there's no difference in the shapes, they are like as if fabrication. It's like, yeah, you are doing
Mm-hmm.
the same thing, so there's also this kind of, I think, routine that comes with most of the, I think, the earth signs, etc., that the yoga, and it's in a very a bit ritualistic as well, which
Mm-hmm.
the Virgo has as well. I mean, like that you go and then do things, etc., in a way like that. And also it's like, I'm thinking about this, but there's something also, sometimes I feel that that routine is like how much it is enjoyable, but
Mm.
or is it going to the boredom side? What is the line between them? Yeah, you are doing all the time, no, you at a point get sometimes get sick of what you are doing, and
Yeah.
maybe you want to change the bit and do some, you make even on the that pentacle some tick like this. It made it different. It's something like this. So I'm all the time when I look at this card, it's thinking, yeah, when will it change anywhere? Something, yeah,
Mm.
that it makes a difference and make the thing. Yeah, so I think that's also eight is the, that it's the number that is associated with Saturn. No, in
Mm.
some in some sources they say that like the number eight is associated with Saturn. So in that sense also it's interesting. Though in this case,
Huh.
my Saturn is there. The decan ruler
Yeah.
is Sun, but my Saturn is in the first decan of Virgo.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about especially with Earth, that routine that, we know how to do this in a realized or physical form, but Virgo is double-bodied. Virgo is mutable, and so it's like to be in, all the double-bodied signs, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, Gemini. They all were originally depicted as double bodies, and Virgos was that it was a woman with bird wings, like she was both bird and woman.
Mhm.
And so I think about just the mutable or double-bodied signs is kind of being in two bodies at once and having that back and forth and symbolizing the beginning of the where the light is at the beginning of Virgo versus where the light is at the end of Virgo is very different. And so there is that kind of could like things could be a little different. Like it's not fixed. It's not like my job here is to sustain the light and hold on as much as possible possible like the fixed signs are. For mutables, it's like, what if we tried this? Now, what if we tried this? Now, what if we tried this? Because I don't know that inertia or routine exists as heavily in Virgo as it does with Taurus. I think that there's with Mercury, especially, it's like, well, what if I put a little curl at the end of this just to try it out, just to see? And maybe I won't like it, but I'll go back and forth. And that's that mutable nature is like, it's like the trial. It's like, what is this going to do? Currently in the sky, we have a lot of mutability going on. And so I feel like there's a lot of like mutable has the blessing and the curse of being willing to explore. And sometimes that exploration, you hit a dead end, or you don't like the results, or you feel like you have to go and backtrack and all those things. But it's like this, like the curiosity may kill the cat, but it like keeps us interested in life. And that's my favorite thing about mutability is like just the play and the exploration, even within an earth sign like Virgo.
And I think, for example, when you are saying that, like, it's like, yeah, that's the touch and everything, but I think Virgo is much different in that sense, like when compared to Gemini, that they are both ruled by Mercury, because I think with the Virgo, you find the perfect point. You won't continue putting those tails. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, we found the perfect part, and then yeah, let's close it. There's no need to like this, because then it will become imperfect, and then it's like, the Virgo obsessive compulsive. Sometimes it's like it happens with me. It's like, oh my god, it moved to the side, to the left. It's like, it got asymmetric. Let's do it symmetrical, etc.
Yeah.
So in the end, you feel like, okay, if we can do all these adaptability, etc., like change, etc., but I think there's a point comes perfect, that's the peak, let's
Leave it alone.
nail it, and then we finish it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Susan Chang wrote in her book that 36 Secrets about how when she was a kid, she would go to Martha Stewart's house because it was like her dad knew her first Martha Stewart's first husband, and she described this beautifully upholstered chair that had a rope across the so that no one could sit in it. And like that's what that reminds me of. Is like this chair is perfect as is, and you will ruin it if you utilize it. So no one sits in it in case you get it dirty or rip or you spill food or a child carves their initials into the arm or whatever. It's like it's perfect. Now leave it alone.
That reminds me like of the era that I grew up as a child in Turkey. It could have been different in other countries. Of course, it's because of the culture, because all of my friends agree with that. We had this sitting room and the living room. And the living
Mm-hmm.
room will be generally closed. Everything is but in place. And then all
Mm.
these embroideries put, etc. But that was only for the guests.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, because it has to be clean, tidy, etc. That's a untouchable place. I mean, like, I think
Mm-hmm.
I was only 14, 15. My mother said that, this is nonsense. I think let's now it's time to change and open it to public of the house, etc. But it was like this, that all those, all type of TVs with the things, huge bump at the back, and then there are all
Mm-hmm.
these embroideries here, there, etc. And then it was like a museum. It was
Yeah.
dusted and then closed back. That reminded me that, that's perfect like this. No one touches that.
Yeah. Or like my grandma used to have plastic on her couch to keep it
Okay.
from getting dirty, but it was so sticky, like to sit on it, it was like very uncomfortable. You weren't able to actually enjoy the couch. Even visually, you would look at it and be like, that's a couch covered in thick plastic. And yeah, sure, the material might not deteriorate, but it's just completely like it's just like it's like arrested development of the use of that furniture. It's like, no, okay, well now what? And I can see that being kind of Virgoan of like, don't mess it up. And so from there we go to, let me see if I can scroll to this one here, the middle decan of Virgo, which is ruled by the Empress or Venus. And right now, today, is Venus is at the 15th degree of Virgo. So she's right smack in the middle of this decan. And it's funny, like even thinking about the couch covered in plastic. A lot of the times, the fabric of the couches would be as ornate as the dresses that are in this card, or on the Empress. So we have the Hermit still as Virgo. We have the Empress. She is covered in this long, flowy robe that is full of pomegranates, but the pomegranates are all upside down, so it looks like the Venus sigil. The Venus sigil is the circle of spirit, and then it has kind of a cross coming down below. She's sitting on lots of comfortable, cushy pillows and blankets. She has a scepter in her hand with a ball on the top. Again, kind of looks like the Venus sigil. She has a starry crown. So have you ever counted those? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it looks like. White stars at her head. And there's a forest behind her. There's wheat at her feet, kind of suggesting the fertility of the Empress card. And then there's this like little waterfall coming out of the woods and pooling down at her feet. The thing that always puzzles me is that heart-shaped stone that is there. I don't exactly know why it would be made out of stone, but it has the Venus sigil clearly written or painted on that, that is sitting there. What's your take on the Empress card, and do you have any insight on what that Venus stone might be?
Yeah, that I actually don't remember the think about that. I mean that why there's a stone that is made of heart shape, but I think in most of the decks, not only Rider Waite Smith, but in other decks, always Venus is much more associated with love. So in that
Mhm.
sense, I think it can be coming through there. So, but except that I don't remember the association with it, to be honest. But
Yeah.
she's comfortable with all the cushions at the back, at the side, here and there.
Yeah.
There is stone. I think there is stone. Probably it's like there is kind of that um stabilizing something in a way. I mean, like
Mm,
it's like carved in stone. It's like, it's stone, something that would not get ruined easily. I mean, it will chip, it will this, etc.
mm,
But it's like, I think it's more kind of there's something maybe long term about it in a way that will
mm.
some, I wouldn't say infinity, but that will stay there for a long time, like
Yeah.
that it can stay still there forever, maybe, or something like that. Probably it can be.
Yeah, like how long lasting love can be, even like
Yeah.
beyond the grave. Love can kind of still continue. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, do I talk about any of the cards? I mean, do I do that? I
Sure,
mean, like
yeah. Or
I have Mercury in this decan, by the way, Mercury in
awesome.
Virgo,
What
and then
degree?
actually it's 12 degrees,
Oh,
12, 12.
nice.
It's a it's a funny degree. 12 it's like, and actually it's my Saturn and Mercury are conjunct. It's a bit wide, but they are conjunct, by the way.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, of course the ruler is here, of course, Venus according to Chaldean order, but in the triplicity it's the Saturn here as well. Again, we have this Saturn, I think Venus coming together in a way, I think, when we
Mm.
think about that. And it's interesting, in this card, I got stuck. There were these grapevines down on the floor. There is the snail also, that is carrying the
Hmm.
home and then going together, I think, that kind of thing. But I was reading I told you before we started the talk, and I was looking at the one of the Robert Place's book, and then it was defining that, I think, Marcus Scott and the other lady that he worked, Goodwin. I think they were thinking that this character on this nine of pentacles is the same as the Rosalind from As You Like It from the Shakespeare, because I think that
Oh.
during that time the theater, I mean, in the Arthur Waite's time, of course, we are
Hmm.
talking about. I mean, I think that they were probably, this was on the stage, and that was
Right.
inspired from the Rosalind, because I think it's most of the time the male character Rosalind, but there is a part that she's herself, and then
Mhm.
she appears with this kind of cloth. And I think in that time, stage costumes, etc., there was this. So I told you that I got all distracted when I was looking at the meanings, and it turns out that yeah, this was the Rosalind thing. And I think the snail is interesting. I mean, there is something, of course, slow about it, but it
Mm.
goes, it makes its way. And also there is
Mhm.
I think this loneliness that comes with this card, that there is
Yeah.
this, yeah, she's like, I have it all solved. It's under my control. Now I
Yeah.
enjoy my whatever the Hulk, because it's, I think, the gaming Hulk, etc. I think that gaming thing, it's more with the upper class thing, at least in those times.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
assume
Mhm.
that. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, in my garden, I don't need anyone. I have it all done. It's like I have my wealth and this and that, etc. So it's like, now it's time to enjoy the life,
Yeah.
but I
And
can
they
do
have
it
that
on my own.
snail pace.
I don't need anyone. It's like
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I like that this it's a snail. She gets to operate on at a snail's pace now, because there's no rush to kind of get things to that perfection before. And to be honest, and my Virgo placements are cringing that I've never noticed the snail before.
Okay.
Never looked down all that far. But I thought a lot about the bird, because even if you look at the hermit shape and how, he's looking down and he's holding something up in his hand, she's kind of looking at his side and holding, her hand up with the falconer's glove, and the falcon on her hand. To me, it feels like the bird itself is Mercury. I know this is the Venus temple, but it's like, birds are mercurial anyway, and they can kind of cross boundaries that Mercury kind of does. And the bird always felt mercurial, having the song, having kind of the back and forth. I don't know, it just always felt like the bird was there as almost like a little stand-in for Hermes. Um, because the 15th degree is the exaltation degree of Mercury, in Virgo. And this is the decan that holds it. But I like just the overwhelming abundance that is kind of at her back. Like, it does signify that, like, this is kind of peak. Like, the 9 is kind of the peak of the story for all the suits. Like, the 10 is like the transition to the next part of the story. It's kind of like the exit door. The 9 is like the ultimate, um uh crest of the story of the suit. And whenever this card comes up in readings, it's usually it's usually related to women that have reached this point where they have kind of got it all figured out for themselves, that they have like reached this place of like, I earn enough money, I'm in a place that I have all my things in the places they need to be, and I don't have to ask that many people for help. I'm this reciprocal force that is just self-sustaining. And yet, like, where do you go from there? Like, where is the connection? Because that's the thing about Venus, the aspect that's related to Venus is the sextile, which is like that first aspect that wants to find union, that wants to find some sort of newness. And so to me, it's like a tension point between, yes, Venus is in fall in Virgo because she exalts in the opposing sign of Pisces. But I think that like, whenever a decan ruler is in a sign, it's like, okay, well, what does that decan ruler have to offer to the entire sign, but specifically for these 10 days? Like, what can it teach the sign? And I think that, this, if you are self-sufficient and you have kind of everything in its order, and you have the rope across the chair that no one can sit in because you perfectly upholstered it, or if you have everything in its place and you are as successful as you're going to be, and you were able to go at that snail's pace, that in itself can feel like a rut, even if it's a nice, comfortable rut. And Venus is here to say, now take that and learn how to um, uh, like let some of that go in order to merge and transcend to kind of a more deeper level of connection with just your existence, which usually means that things are not going to be in their place, or they're not going to be as perfect, but you get to keep seeking that perfection. So it's like, enjoy it for a while. Ask the middle cards always kind of be like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Because we're not finished with the story yet. A lot of times you kind of come out of some sort of difficulty. The middle card usually has some sort of stability to it, and this one definitely does. It's like she seems perfectly happy, but life isn't about finding happiness. It's finding happierness. I think Oprah said that. It's like, how can
I
you
would,
become happier?
I think, I don't know if she's happy, but what she
Mm,
is think that she's maybe in well-being, etc., comfortable. But
mm,
I can actually, uh, because the way that she looks like, it's not like happy, like maybe Ten of Cups is like
mm-hmm.
more like happy. It's like rainbow,
Yeah,
etc.
that's true.
But here I think there is still something I always see. Yeah, it's like fine, okay, I all figured it out.
Mm,
This that kind of, I have the pentacles, pomegranates, everything is like flowing. But is she really happy?
mm,
Mm,
yeah. Yeah, maybe
yeah, I mean,
content, because content is kind of
yeah,
like it's a temporary
more
thing. Yeah.
maybe, I mean,
Full.
like for fulfillment or something like that, about a certain thing you want to reach this point,
Mm,
like achieve
mm-hmm.
it. Then you are like, yeah, I'm like, it can be emotionally, it can be physically, financially, you are fulfilled. But always fulfillment or achievement comes with the happiness, not necessarily. I
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and to be fair, like the things that are full in this card, like the grapes are there, she's got lots of lush life around her. She has the bird, she has a snail, but all those things will die. And maybe
yeah,
that's what that stone is. It's kind of like, if you want something to be a lot longer lasting, there are other things outside of just the fulfillment of harvest, because this is a very big like harvesting card. Like the grapes are starting to ripen enough where you can make wine, but it's just a symbol of how life can ripen to a very beautiful thing, but life also goes away. And so what is beyond that? And the what is beyond it kind of shows more in the last decan of Virgo. Is called the Lord of Gain. And the idea of just like getting more and more and more. I think fulfillment, the word you use, is a great word for this card. And maybe going away from happiness into like it's just more and more fulfillment, and having so much like life around her. I mean, the Seven of Pentacles, the last decan of Taurus, has kind of a similar character where there's lots of life, but that character is still working. Like they're kind of resting. It's a Saturn decan, but they're
yeah.
resting kind of on their implement or on their tool, but there's still a lot of life. This character isn't working. It's like they're just things are just coming to it. So as someone with placements there, like, do you feel like you have the capacity to build and have things kind of accumulate and gain, kind of in this area? I mean, like, just if your Mercury's here, like, is it a matter of knowledge or interest and curiosity? I mean, do you feel like you're able to kind of build on the knowledge that you have, and that in itself kind of becomes larger than you would expect? Or does it provide you fulfillment like this card would suggest?
No, never. Knowledge is never enough. I think it's like, I believe that there is something like, I'm content with what I know,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that I always say it's like what we know in general is like those water drops in the ocean.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I explore more the rest of the ocean? Why don't I know more? I mean, of course, I mean, like, you succeed something, I succeed something, or I do something, I have a diploma. But for me, it's like, that it's until reaching that point. I got the diploma,
Mm.
nah, so what next?
Right.
I have on the other hand, also I have to say that my Mercury is nearly exact sextile Uranus. So it's like,
Ah,
and that's in the third house in Scorpio. So I think maybe that is the maybe that may have more
disruption.
effect
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there is one Saturn, it's like saying like maybe like, okay, let's put you in structure, and the other one is saying, mm-mm, no, I think maybe
I see your
it's like
structure.
let's
I
more
see your
let's more
structure.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it can be, I think in my case, I think that can be more effective. But yeah, there's a part that, yeah, you get satisfied, but I think there's beyond that always for
Mm-hmm.
everything. In my case, I mean, for knowledge, I mean, there's always beyond. I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
continue studying. I mean, I studied like 4 years. It's like a university degree. I mean, astrology. It's like that's why I continue studying the amount of workshops, etc. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that doesn't finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Won't finish.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially with a study like astrology, is like there's more information than one human can integrate, much less consume in a lifetime.
Yeah,
And so that's the part of that I think discernment is an attribute for Virgo. I find that there's this quickness, um, being Mercury ruled, of like seeing something, and if it flashes, with some sort of clarity of truth. I think that Virgo is able to be a good editor in that, of just like trimming away things that seem superfluous, don't seem helpful. Instead of just consuming everything, of kind of like putting it in piles of that information, or that study doesn't seem like it's going to be very helpful, and I'm just going to put it over here to as an aside, and really focus in on kind of the knowledge that I value. And I think that this decan especially is like valuing the knowledge that you collect, and knowing that even if you're never going to be satiated, like you're never going to have peak fulfillment, the curiosity, maybe the curiosity itself is the fulfillment. Like as long as you're curious, you're able to kind of implement this card.
yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. Yeah,
Yeah. This is the only decan of Virgo that I do not have a placement. But when we look at dignities, and I have a soft spot in my heart for certain placements, and especially Venus and Virgo. I absolutely love it. And I don't experience it. So, I mean, I can't speak to kind of how, a planet that is not at home is exiled. And so they're having to be more resourceful because they don't have things at their hands. Like if you're at home, like Venus in Taurus is at home, Venus in Libra is at home. If you're at home, you know where all of your utensils are, like if something breaks, that how to fix it or who to call. I mean, you have kind of access to all of your resources. And when you're away from that, if you're exiled, you don't have access to those resources as immediately. So I feel like it kind of makes you have to work harder, but you also don't have the trappings of being at home. When you're away from home in a foreign land, you're able to move faster. You're able to kind of explore, break out of those comfort zones. Yeah, you might depend on others. So an exiled planet has to kind of depend on others around it. And so Venus and Virgo, um, as this decan ruler, has to kind of look to others for help, which I mean, it might kind of go against the self-sufficiency of this card, but it also might just be like I can make do without, which can be a very Venus and Virgo thing. I'll make do
yeah,
without if it's not exactly what I need. I'll just fast or abstain from it because it's not worth for me to have the wrong thing. It's worth for me to have nothing. There's an
but I
austerity,
think,
I guess.
yeah, I think, but it's being in a mutable sign, at least it can increase the the movement. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
if this doesn't work this way, I mean, yeah, if you are talking about being exiled or being in a land that you are not familiar with, if it doesn't work this way, then okay, I try that way. I mean, like
Yeah.
that, if the way that I show my love to someone doesn't work this way, then I find another way. If I
Mm.
don't know, the value of this thing wouldn't be good enough, and then I will look for other ways so that the thing would be valued in the perfect way possible. So I think that's
Yeah.
the mutability of Virgo, and then the Mercury still will be the main ruler, would be like with the swiftness, and then that quick thinking and everything will just like make it still work in a way,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. And even though like you have that Uranian relationship with your Mercury, I think even if you did not have that, there is that aspect of it being Mercury and being mutable, of like wanting to or having the ability to swift and change and pivot, because that's kind of a mutability. I just laugh that you have that Uranus Mercury connection, because and with your Mercury being so close to Saturn, it's like Saturn's like, here are the limitations, and Uranus is like, well, I raise you chaos instead.
Beautiful.
That's a nice like a constantly having to rebuild frameworks that Uranus is there to just disrupt. Like, okay, well, how is this supposed to fit together? So let's talk about Mercury, because Mercury is the I just absolutely love these cards together. Like, to me, this is like my favorite together. I love the Magician card, I love the Ten of Coins, and I love the Hermit. But so we have the Magician is represented by Mercury. Mercury is the domicile of Virgo and the exaltation of Virgo, and here it's like he's the Decan ruler. So it's like this thrice great Hermes is definitely embodied in this last 10 degrees of Virgo. Um, so what are your initial thoughts on the card? And then we can go into descriptions if you want.
The Ten of Pentacles is interesting. I mean, there is kind of a uh, that is, of course, it's Mercury ruled. It's like Mercury in Virgo, or Virgo is ruled by Mercury. But there is this in this card. There is something also generational.
Mm,
That they bringing all. I think sometimes even it can be the past, now, and the future together, and all the the child image, and the much elderly person, and then the
mhm,
couple, etc. there. And there is also, of course, the all this image of the castle beyond, but there is this arc that is the entrance
mhm,
of the, like, safeguarding something. What are we safeguarding here? It's like, it can be the maybe the knowledge that they are safeguarding, that is passing through the generations, in a sense.
mhm,
I'm like, of course, the pentacles is always like associated with something more tangible, financial, etc. But also knowledge is, I mean, we cannot see it, but it can be carried through generations as well. In that sense, I mean, I think also, I mean, like, in the books that I have read, always these dogs, which are, of course, are known to be friendly and everything, and then there are white dogs. They are also connecting the elderly person sitting there with the child in a way.
oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is this connection that is done through those dogs. Of course, I mean, depending on the context, I mean, like, you can always say what do these dogs stand for, but it's something
Mhm.
that is connecting this uh, person that is already, like, he's sitting there. I did my thing. Maybe if there's any wealth, I already collected it,
Mhm.
but I'm done. I'm sitting now. It's kind of, the rest is like, maybe even take care of it, and do the rest is your job. And
Yeah.
now I'm resting my case, and I'm just here. And then it's like the connection with the uh, it can be a grandchild, or I don't know, maybe these people, he can be only the owner and these people can be the people that are looking after the castle as well, but there's a connection with the future in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that weaving of the child. So in the card, there's a child on kind of the lower right, and he's got his hand on the tail of a white dog. There are two white dogs kind of facing this old man that has this incredibly ornate cloak or blanket that is draped at his shoulders and going all the way to the bottom left-hand side of the card. The dogs, both of their mouths are like right at his hand, so it does kind of connect that youngest generation with the oldest generation. But then also, as you were speaking, there's two kind of adults, like middle-aged adults, that are also in the card. There's a woman that's wearing a red cloak that's facing the front of the card. She has a flower crown around her. And then there's another character that we only see their back and they're facing, but they're kind of, their heads are suggesting like they're communicating with each other. But on that person whose back is at the card, that blue cloak kind of sweeps around and it looks like it continues around in the blue color of the child. It just, it really weaves all of the characters kind of together. And I do like this as like a generational card. I mean, this is the 10 of a suit, so it's the end of the story. And there's the top left hand all the way arching over to the top right is a little arch. And, if we think of like doorways as like portals, Mercury as being the traveler between worlds, if we've reached this point of the end of the story, then there's another doorway to walk through to go to the next adventure. And so it's really the symbolism in this card that is so layered is just incredible. It's so lovely. And even the stars themselves, there's 10 stars or 10 discs with stars carved into them by that diligent worker of the 8 of coins. But the way that they're laid out looks like the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life, the way that they're kind of laid out over it. So it's like, again, this continuation of lives kind of within lives within lives. It's just it's one of the richest visual image cards in all of tarot. And if we look there's a wand that the character whose back is facing us that he's kind of holding. It has a white tip and it looks very similar to the wand that the magician holds. The wand is black, but it has that white tip. And I was reading about double terminated crystals that have a point at the top and the bottom. And the idea of using double terminated crystals like the one that's in the magician's hand, the idea is that you pull in energy from one end and you transmute it through the wand and it comes out changed on the other end. And to me, that's what Hermes does. It's like you, Teri, you read something, you process it through your own collected knowledge, your own insight, your own experience, your own references and anecdotes, and your own relationship to archetypes. And then you translate or transmute all of that collected information, including the new information you just read, and you're processing that through in ways that are completely unique to you as a coalesced channel of energy information. It's like that's what we do when we learn and we share. The things that we interpret is just like what that magician card holds. So he holds this white wand with a tip on the top and a tip on the bottom. And even his other hand is kind of pointing down to the ground. So it's like he himself is like this method of transmutation, of pulling energy from above and sending it as below. To me, I mean, Mercury is the planet for us. It's like Mercury helps us, Mercury and the moon, but Mercury especially is that traveler between worlds. He finds his joy in the first house, like right in the middle. He wants to be able to see the underworld and the heavens, and he likes to be right there at the helm to kind of be in our business as much as possible, because he's like the most curious planet, it seems. He wants to be there to gather the information and help it help translate it for us. So can you speak on the magician card just as a
Yeah.
native?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think there is also, except the one that we see all the elements on the table that we see. I mean, like sometimes it is interpreted as the skills, but
Hmm.
it's also four elements. It's like what makes life in a way together, that we have the water, we have the air, we have the fire, and we have the earth, and then we have all that together. They are all in front of us. So what can you make out of it?
Mm.
What work your magic? What
Yeah,
can it be? I
yeah.
mean, it's the think about it. I mean, and then if you are working, I mean, everyone works their magic in another way. It may not be literally magic or kind of alchemy, like
Hmm.
turning the metals into gold or something else. But what's your magic? Because it's like, in a way, uh, it feels like with the south note, etc., we are born with some skills, this way or
Mm.
that way. Everyone is born with skills, and then you have that set that is already inside you.
Hmm.
But of course, how you use them, what you do with them, at the end of the day, it also depends on you, how you use that information all together and put them all together, and what you make out of it. I think
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's where the magic starts. I
yeah,
could say it's not ends, but it's where the magic starts.
yeah. What is your magic? What do you think your magic is? What's your talents?
uh,
Just
uh,
put you on the spot.
yeah, for the I don't know. I mean, like, it's like, that's a very good question. I mean, like, I never think I just do things all the time. I think, I search, I learn, and everything, and I think the magic is like, as we share the
Mm,
information. At least in my case, if I have any knowledge, if I have any information, if I'm able to share with some other people in somehow, in some ways, and then I can add all those people and then enlighten them in a way. I think that's the time that I think, in a way, a magic works. I
yeah,
think that's really important for me. I think that's the only skill, not the only skill, but one of my skills that I think that I have. I think I'm not like, it's like, oh, let the crowds follow me. But if there is like 100 people that can be get something out of what I know, that's already for me. It's like, oh, the magic is working.
yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just being kind of in your audience and like listening to the things that you share, you don't gatekeep information. You express it in a way through your own curiosity. And I think that is one of your magical talents is like you're curious and you ask questions and you process it through and you share it. You don't hold it. You don't hoard your wealth. And I think that's something that kind of comes up a little bit in these decans is the if you have all of these coins, you have the 8, 9, and 10 of coins. If you bury it in the ground, it just atrophies, it rots, it decays, it tarnishes, and then it doesn't do anything. In order, especially because it's Mercury. Mercury is currency. It's currency of information and dollars, and it's just forms of value that we exchange with each other. This is Hermes. This is not supposed to be buried underground. It's supposed to be shared with other people. And so, I see you doing that. I see you sharing that. And, I love that you don't find fulfillment because then if you did, then you would maybe stop. So I think that it's a wonderful talent to be curious. To me, it's one of the best um, things that you can cultivate is just curiosity.
Exactly, exactly. And I have
Yeah.
sun in this decan. Sun in this decan
Oh,
that is conjunct my north node. Keep
ah.
going.
Don't stop.
Don't stop.
What degree? What degree is your sun?
My sun is the 23rd degree. It's
Okay.
2358, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Virgo, that is to know the degree. Yeah, it's like 20. Yeah, that's 2358, but the north
Yeah.
node is a bit farther away. But it's like the lunar eclipse. In any case, I have the moon on the opposite side of the
Yeah.
chart. I mean, like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, that I have those in the second happy. Everything is Mercury is like for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like I am a Leo rising, so called, but it's like actually I think that the sun is in Virgo, and then it ends up all in
Yeah.
I think Mercury. Yeah, at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. You can't scrub the Mercury out of your chart.
No,
You
no,
have,
no,
yeah.
no.
Um, well, I mean, we're kind of wrapping up. Was there anything about any of the decans that you had notes that you wanted to share, or any other just thoughts on the card specifically? And if not, we can
Mm,
just talk about Virgo season just as a season and what you feel like it shows us and represents, like leaving Leo and going into Libra. So any other thoughts on these cards, or do you just want to talk about Virgo?
No, I think I'm for me, we said what it's said. There's also this infinity. I like this on the
Mm-hmm.
luminescent, no? That's called, I mean, like with the Mercury, there's something. I always think that it's like all comes to information and knowledge. And also in the Ten of Pentacles, I mean, like, what do you pass? I mean, the wealth comes to an end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, if something happens, it can go. I mean, physical things come to an end,
Mm-hmm.
but the experience, that knowledge, or the lessons or knowledge of the past, they never die. They pass in
Yeah.
a way, I mean, to the front. And I think that's the where the Mercury is important. It's like first the wing feet messenger, and also going through there's the psycho pump, also like helping people
Mm-hmm.
through here and there. I think that's really important. I think like like for me it's like Mercury in Virgo. It's like the information, ultimate information, like all the knowledge that can be spread as much as possible.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah. And there
the
was,
right information, not the type of yeah, it's like this, but it's like as long as like yeah, I think that's the important thing about that.
yeah, I mean, there was a Bob Dylan documentary. It was like half true. And, Bob Dylan has a handful of Mercury placements, mostly the Sun and Gemini. But what was funny is that they made this documentary, and half of the information, of the historical information, was correct, and the other half was made up. And you kind of had to like figure out what was true and what was not true. And it was just so mercurially coded. It's like, of course, Bob Dylan, being a Mercury sun, would be duplicitous. And that's the thing. It's like having the right information, throwing it in there of to just kind of play the game, because playing games is a very magician card, very mercurial thing to do. Games that go back and forth, like tennis and basketball, and things that kind of go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like that figure eight, like that lemniscate over his head, are mercurial things. And what I just wrote about, I finally finished my Leo decan writing, and one of the things that kind of came up was the idea of the phrase sub rosa, to be under the rose. And it basically means like that there are secrets kept sub rosa. It's like some sort of mystery or secrets kept. And I can't remember the exact God's name. I'm going to look it up real quick just because it feels appropriate. Maybe I won't have it, but the phrase came from just one god witnessing the transgressions of Venus and being bribed to not share those secrets with the rest of the world. And so it's like what happens under the rose stays under the rose. Like before the phrase about Las Vegas came, it's like what happens under the rose garland is to be kept sacred and to be kept secret. It's about mysteries. It's about not repeating them. And I love that Mercury is there. It's a daylight card. There's no horizon behind him. It's all sun, yet he's completely surrounded under garlands of roses and with roses growing at the feet. Like what is kind of held within that is to be treated with some sort of reverence, even if it is 50% false. Even in that there's the book, The Picatrix, and in the introduction, it basically says like a lot of this information is not true. You have to decipher what is true and what is not. And just to kind of always keep things a little stirred up. So it's like Mercury isn't going to tell you directly the information all the time. Sometimes it's going to come into the form of story or riddle or lies that you have to kind of invert to become the truth. Like there is this kind of gameplay that happens with mercurial information, and that it's maybe not expressed as loudly through Virgo because it's the feminine, the yin, the receptive temple of Hermes, as opposed to Gemini, which is way more expressively trickster. There is a trickster element to Virgo that we don't always necessarily see because it's maybe more internalized. And maybe if you have Virgo placements, you would understand that more internally than expressed outward like Gemini has. So just to kind of like finish it on the Magician. But so let's just spend a few minutes just talking about Virgo as a season. I mean, we tend to talk about it in the Northern Hemisphere, kind of like what the changes are. But the beginning of Virgo for the Northern Hemisphere is like, it is the end of summer. It is kind of like this card here. It's like the grapes maybe aren't completely full, but they're getting very full. Harvest time has come. The fresh gardens have kind of died away. There's still some winter squash. I mean, it's like you're starting to just really reap all of the benefits of all the work, but you definitely get the sense that night is increasing and that night is soon going to be overtaken. So when we get to Libra 1, night will completely overtake the day, and the vibe definitely shifts from Virgo to Libra. So what's your sense just as Virgo as a season from beginning to end?
I think I love it.
Yeah.
Like because when they, I mean, like I think summer finishes, of course. I mean, like it is, I mean, meteorologically going into the autumn in the northern hemisphere, etc. There's something a bit, I think there is vibrant about summer. Like no, it's like all the sun and everything, and then it's like the people go to beach swimming. Yeah, it's like in warm weather, and there's something hyped about it. But there's also, it's like a nice transition because
Mm.
everything finishes at the end of the day, but
Mm-hmm.
there's something like you just clear cut and then finish it. But there's a way that, yeah, you go and then smoothly start passing to the other side. I think it's in a way Virgo season. It's like in a way has a sense like that, it's like the beginning of kind of autumn, like it cools down, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
completely very cold or anything, but you are slowly saying that, okay, you need to say goodbye to summer. Okay, come to your senses. It's done. That's
Yeah.
the thing. In some parts, of course, here the schools already open, but the school started opening. It's like in a way that you start going back to your nearly 9 months routine after
Mm-hmm.
the summer. So there's like going back to the routine, the normal daily life, and then getting your stuff. It's like it's really practical ways of getting prepared for the next stage that comes with I think Libra, and then it's like in that sense Virgo season serves for that for us like the servant. So it its duty, it serves its all the possible stuff, and then makes the transition in a smooth way to the Libra season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the phrases like it starts to cool down. So like Virgo season, you often get kind of the best of both seasons sometimes. Like you get really warm days still, but then you start to get cool nights. And that combination of the two is just really lovely. But also something you said is like, even if you don't have kids that are in school, we all start to kind of go into that routine around September. Like, even if you don't have children, which we both do, but it's like before I had kids, I still would kind of start to really geek out into like just getting back to routines, like getting prepared for the holiday season and the winter. It's like you're not on vacation or traveling to warmer areas, to kind of enjoy summer. You're kind of getting back to this ritual and routine, which I think that Virgo was really good at putting into the process of all. So yeah, I think that was a really nice way to describe just Virgo as a season. It's really gentle. It's really orderly. It's comforting. It's kind of setting us up for Libra, which also I think shares that. I think Libra and Virgo kind of share that relationship of really desiring order, desiring kind of process and things for there to be a little bit more kind of just to make sense of time. I think Libra and Virgo both kind of get along in that way. So that kind of brings us to the end. I was going to share this just so that we can see where the stars are right now. So this is for my current location. When we started, we had a 15-degree, we had a 26-degree ascendant in Virgo. Now we're in a 12-degree Libra ascendant, but we still have Venus here in her decan. Virgo had Mercury enter in, and what he went to like 4 degrees before it went retrograde back into Leo. So when you see this video, once Virgo season starts, get ready for a Virgo or Mercury that's going to be kind of traveling through. It will cazimi in Libra. It'll have actually cazimi in Leo and then cazimi in Libra. So it'll have that inferior and superior conjunctions this year. But I really love when Mercury kind of travels through all of these decans of Virgo. It just feels kind of a nice refresher. Definitely feels at home. But I personally also like when Venus is here. And especially right now being right smack in the middle of our own decan. So just wanted to kind of get a sense of the star. And we can also look just to see how much mutability there is. We had Mars and Jupiter up here in Gemini squaring Venus. We have Saturn, Venus is about to oppose. Earlier we had the moon and Sagittarius, but it was like creating this big crossroads of mutability, which the crossroads just as a symbol of mutability has been coming to mind. So this is kind of the sky. And so with that, Teri, do you want to share again? Firstly, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being my favorite Virgo to invite. And do you want to share where people can find you and like what you're doing
okay, so
for Virgo season in the future?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I think it was wonderful. I like probably we talked about things normally I wouldn't think. I mean, like that was, I think, for me personally, it was a really great brainstorming about the cars, about the decans, and about the sign of Virgo and the Mercury in general. So thank you very much for that and for inviting me. I'm a practicing astrologer and tarot reader, so you may find me Amethyst Astro Tarot. It's like on Instagram, Facebook, also on YouTube now as Teri Nudeman Astro. That's Amethyst Astro Tarot. So that happens now that I will blame it on Mercury. Yeah, I mean, I'm in terms of, I mean, astrology, I do natal astrology and yearly forecast. And mostly, I mean, now, I think it's been a long time that I didn't see anyone in person. I generally do everything through Zoom. Even in the same city, I think it's easier to organize the times, etc.
Same.
For the tarot reading is the same, but sometimes I do it uh, written, which is most of the people don't like because it's time consuming. But for me, it's like I can think and then
Mm.
find the right words and the right interpretation for that. And at the end of the month, hopefully, I will be talking at the International Astrological Association conference
Oh, nice.
in UK, and it would be about the decans.
Nice. Awesome.
It will, the title is When the 36 Faces Meet the 36 Lesser Secrets. So it's
Ah.
actually the combination of decans in astrology and tarot.
Hmm.
So hopefully fingers crossed for that. That's are the things that I'm doing at the moment. Yeah, it's like if anyone wants to contact me, yeah, they can do it through the website. I have my email written there as well. So thank you very much once again.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll put the links to all that in the show notes so people can just like find it and click.
Yeah.
That's really exciting for the lecture you're gonna give. That'll be amazing, I know. And yeah, thank you so much for joining today. And yeah, we'll stop it here.
Like and subscribe.